Okay. No, I just want you to.
Chang bought a van and decked it out, showed us all had all he needed, could park it anywhere, free as a bird. But when he flew, he found out fast that the great outdoors is a barbed wire fence. I'm not staying here when the ship goes south, and the shit seems to be already here. I've a backpack with all my needs. Trouble is, when I dream, all I find is that the great outdoors is a barbed wire fence. I'm sure my grandfather left freedom here, unless my eyes were open when I was born. But this world has left me blind. Is that right, Mother? Am I blind? I'm sure I smelled freedom once in the backwood forests of your eyes. How you said, hide with me, or how else will we ever live free? There's an exodus heading out of town. Their faces are up, but their eyes are down. There's a sun that seems to be shining upside down, and around and around, upside down, and around and around, upside down, and around and around, until we reach the outskirts of town, where we find time and time again that the great outdoors is a barbed wire fence.
Okay. Okay, let's get going, Jonathan. There's and you do look much better like that in that light. Look at you. Choose a button. So, do you want to introduce our esteemed guest for today?
Yes, is KEYSAR still here somewhere?
He's in the background.
We're
He's all dressed up.
We're
He's on the,
interviewing.
here he comes. Welcome to the cafe, KEYSAR.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So our guest today is KEYSAR Trad. He's been at various times Australia's most famous Muslim, basically. He was a spokesman for the Lakemba Mosque in Western Sydney for many years, and saw his way through many a controversy in Sydney back in the day. He was the spokesperson for Sheikh Taj-al-Din Hilali, if I've pronounced that right. He later became the Mufti of Australia, so he was one of Australia's most outspoken Muslims, and KEYSAR Trad was the one that fronted the media constantly, and that's how I got to meet him through the days at the Sydney Morning Herald and then at the Australian, and he was always great to deal with. He fronted the media through controversies including the riots at Cronulla and the media-generated furor over comments by the Sheikh on modesty, comparing scantily clad women to uncovered meat. The comments weren't actually that much different to what a conservative Christian pastor might have said, but the media beat that one into life. I was right in the middle of the people who were actually beating it into life, so I could vouch for the backstory. KEYSAR has served multiple terms as the president of the Lebanese Muslim Association and was the founder and president of the Australian Federation of Islamic Councils. He's just written an article for the Australasian Muslim Times describing Australia's new hate speech laws as a great betrayal. And of course, there are a few more disgusting sights in Australian public life than watching Australian politicians exploit the grief of others for their own political ends, which of course is exactly what we've seen. Now, KEYSAR, I think it would come as a surprise to a lot of Australians that the Muslim community is so hostile to these hate speech laws. Can you give us the background as to why that is the case?
I'm not sure if it is a surprise to a lot of Australians. Maybe those who don't know what's been happening around the world. I think what we've been seeing out of Gaza and some other parts of the world, people are now aware, and I think many Australians are completely sickened by the level of atrocities and the fact that a genocide is happening, and we have a government that is almost completely blind to it, both government and opposition. And we really have the major parties completely kowtowing to a certain very powerful lobby. You're probably better off not mentioning it at the moment. You can mention who they are if you want. I mean, the extent of the power that they wield over our senior politicians is seen in how the leader of the opposition risked everything, knowing that she would fracture the coalition, knowing that she could well lose her leadership. They applied this, as I put in my article, they applied the thumb screws on her, and she immediately capitulated. And that level of power should not be held by any lobby in Australia. Australian politicians should be acting in the interests of Australia, and I think many people in the general public are fully aware of that. Of course, there will be some who are on the fringes, those people who've threatened mosques, who've harassed Muslim, especially people who are visibly Muslim, like Muslim women who wear the scarf. And these people are people who are easily led by the media that streams into pubs and places where people leave their brains at the door and just get drunk. So those particular individuals may well be brainwashed by media rhetoric, but and dog whistling. But the general population, I think, are aware. And the Harbour Bridge, the protests on the Harbour Bridge that saw so many people braving the rain and winds and police misdirections on that day. To have that many people there on that type of day, in that type of weather, shows that the vast majority of Australians are far more astute than people want to give them credit for. And I think that these particular laws, if nothing is done to repeal them or amend them or make them more fair and balanced, then I think the major parties will be severely punished at the next election.
Well, of course, we've already seen the opposition breaking apart. Oh, sorry, Michael, off you go. But we've already seen the political fallout. My God.
The extraordinary thing happening is watching lawyers come out, civil liberty lawyers and stuff, saying no one's actually gone through the document. Even the politicians don't actually know what's going to happen with this. It's just been rushed through at this extraordinary pace. That's 7,000 submissions, even though the people only had 2 days to put in a submission, they still got 7,000. millions more emailed in, and that's all been tossed aside. I mean, it's just extraordinary. It's hard to see how the politicians are serving the Australian people when they're having such a great change at such a steamrolled pace. Well, so do you really believe it's just to serve one lobby, or is it just Albanese is, I don't know, lost or just so out of touch with Australians? It's not funny.
Well, that's a very, very fair comment, and you're right. And I did mention something about this in my article. It is Milton Friedman type of politics, shock doctrine, that they take advantage of something like this to bring in fascist provisions to silence dissent. This is a government that wants to do whatever it feels like, and they've got these ideas sitting on a shelf, hidden from public view, and when there is a shock, such as a shock that, I mean, the Bondi attacks were tragic and atrocious, and our sympathies to the victims and their families. But the reality is that what is happening on a daily basis in Gaza is numerically far more extreme, and this is by a responsible government in plain sight of everybody else. And it's being fully funded not only by the Americans, but Australia is complicit to a large extent. And it's been seen that some Australian charities are directly contributing to funding the rogue state. What is happening in Gaza is not just Israel overreaching, trying to take over. It is Western powers colluding to take away that particular tract of land and perhaps more. And the fact that what we've seen is Trump create this so-called board of peace and appointing a convicted war criminal to be on that particular board, and he himself, who profits from buffoonery and from bullying. Leading that particular board just after he invaded a sovereign nation and arrested its leader and his wife. Like, okay, you want to arrest Maduro? Why take his wife? Why take his wife as well? Do you fancy her, Mr. Trump, or what? It just doesn't make sense. And then he's got as one of the podcasters, independent media podcasters in the US, Midas Touch. I'm not sure if viewers are familiar with it. They call them the ICE Gestapo, and they act exactly like the Gestapo, maybe worse. I don't think the Gestapo would have shot someone like Miss Good, just completely buggers belief, and then they all come out and defend him, and then there's a GoFundMe page for him that nets him over $1 million, and he's clearly a murderer. That is being defended by the system. Basically, Trump is empowering a Gestapo-style attack on the general public, perhaps so he can steal the upcoming midterm elections, or maybe to cement himself as a forever dictator of the United States, which he still thinks is the most powerful nation on earth. But his behavior is weakening it internationally and losing many, many allies. So it's all tied in together. And I think what Australia is doing, being a long-term lackey of the United States, a nation whose both sides of politics see as something that deserves to be tacked on as a tail on the United States, so it wags whenever the people like Trump wiggle their backside. And it's disgraceful. Australia should not be like that. We should respect our own sovereignty. And maybe I'm getting carried away, but it's an emotional topic. And I think what they're doing is that they are testing the public will, and by using Muslims as a target, and they still think that not enough people know enough about Islam, that they can get away by introducing fascist laws that will not just be applied against Muslims. They will be applied against political dissidents who disturb the establishment. And again, like we talk about these politicians, etc., but the politicians in Western so-called liberal democracies are nothing more than a front for the oligarchs and the plutocrats. They are really nothing more than that. They play musical chairs. Whichever party is in power, those particular politics stay the same, if not worse. Look, just before what's her name, Susan Lee capitulated, uh, uh, Albanese's approval rating was plummeting because he failed in trying to introduce these laws. Why would she hand over a win to her opposition? Why would she capitulate, knowing that that would rescue Albanese and his government? That would
And
save him.
destroy her own party.
And lost her own power. Like that just doesn't make sense unless that same lobby behind the scenes came to her and said, "We will save you. We will protect you. We need the oligarchs need this, and you're going to have a little bit of drama for a few days, and then after that, we're going to pick you up and make you into a heroine." I mean, Andrew Hastie and Angus Taylor are sitting in the background thinking that this is the time to take over from her. So I'm sure that those lobbies will be talking to them and saying, "No, it's not your time. She just delivered. Wait a little bit. We'll give you something else in return." Or maybe they'll sell her out. Like anything is possible in politics. Nothing is guaranteed. And those oligarchs will want the most subservient tool to use, and they'll give them a bit of limelight when they want it. But in the end, if you walk with the oligarchs, you will become a tool for them and nothing else.
Why do you, when you said that the Muslims feel betrayed, just to simplify that, is it because the Islamic people likes free speech as much as every other Australian? I mean, we've lived together for, you guys were here delivering water to Broken Hill.
Yeah.
When people were walking there in wheelbarrows. So we've lived together for almost 200 years, you know,
well,
and until recently there hasn't been a problem.
That is an excellent point, and maybe I'll give a two-pronged response to it. The first part of the response is that it was a Muslim who risked his life, and it's so clear, like his name is Ahmed Al-Ahmed. So if you miss the first name, you'll get it in the second name. This guy risked his life. He got wounded in the process. It's not clear who actually shot him. It may well have been somebody from the, I don't want to say it, but it might well be somebody from the establishment who shot him, or it may have been I have not seen enough evidence to be convinced as to who actually wounded the guy and left a bullet in his arm. And he's getting treatment not just in Australia but overseas. So this victim, who was a Muslim, clearly a Muslim, and he's gone everywhere showing solidarity with the targeted community, if they were in fact the actual target, or whether it was just a rampage by a couple of madmen. And that's yet to be seen. Like most of us did not know that event was taking place. How did those two people know? So it's not clear to a lot of us still whether it was specifically targeting that community or just two mad people on a rampage. What is that person's name and the fact that he's a Muslim has not been celebrated enough to make sure that the blame is taken away from the community and placed strictly on those two madmen who perpetrated the crime. So why target the Muslim community? Why introduce hate speech laws that only protect one community and don't give enough protection to Muslims, knowing that the community that is targeted the most in Australia is the Muslim community? The biggest attacks the most numerous attacks that we see in Australia are Islamophobic attacks. The second most marginalised community in Australia after the Indigenous community is the Muslim community, and it has been for decades. And unfortunately, these laws will mean that this community will be marginalised and harassed and attacked without protection. The iconic Lakemba Mosque, just this week after these laws were passed, received threats as well, and not just the Lakemba mosque, other mosques. So why we betrayed? We worked so hard. We became divided as a community to back people that we believed in, that we believed would be fair and unbiased. People like Tony Burke and Jason Clare and a few others where we have the numbers to make a difference in the electorate. There are several people in key positions in the Australian government, in very senior positions, that we protected against the advice of our own youth. Our own youth started movements like Muslim Votes Matter and the Muslim Vote and Community Voice and things like that. and there were and some wanted to support the Greens, and we said, okay, well, maybe not. Let's these people are our friends. Let's protect these people. And who introduces these laws and admits that this is purely for the protection of the Zionists? Tony Burke. Tony Burke, the man that we have effectively been, and sorry if this sounds a bit crude, we've been effectively nursing him for the ever since he won his position, and protecting him and defending him and carrying him on our shoulders. That is indeed a betrayal when he stands up and says he wants to protect one community that does nothing for him other than threaten him. And ignore the community that's been carrying him on its shoulders and treating him like pampered, better than our most pampered children. So that is indeed a betrayal. Anthony Albanese, again, even in his own electorate, there's a lot of people from the Muslim community who have supported him and worked with him, and for him to do a backflip from somebody who used to go to Palestinian protests and stand up for the rights of Palestinians to somebody who is a blind supporter of the genocidal entity, knowing that they're committing a genocide, and then to say to us, "Oh, look, I've recognized the state of Palestine, now I'm under pressure." Well, stand up for your conscience. No job is worth it. No job is worth having blood on your hands, innocent blood on your hands. No job is worth you standing there alongside the genocidal regime and now welcoming their genocide-enabling president into Australia. So this is not something that will be. That's not something that will be forgotten soon by the community. And when many of us stood with the Labor at the last election, we were worried what the Liberals would do. Now, if we get clever enough leaders in the community, they will organise meetings with the Liberal leadership, and they will say, "Look, we will come with you, provided you show us that you're going to be fair to us." Many of us are already supporting the Greens, and many more will go to the Greens, and they will say, "Look, we're concerned about one aspect of your policies. Give Muslims exemptions from that particular aspect, and we will be with you," and they will do a lot better. I don't know what Labor can do between now and the next election to undo the damage that they have done. This is an own goal, and they are seen throughout the community as traitors, and people are attacking the Muslim leaders. Muslims are attacking the Muslim leaders who defended Labor before the last election. They're saying, "Look, we told you so. These are the people you defended. You criticised us for them. And look how badly they've betrayed us. And now we're not even allowed to, if we talk about the genocide that is happening in Palestine, which continues to happen, then there's a slip up, we risk going to prison for 12 years. And are they going to build more prisons to accommodate more people who are not going to shut up? People who are going to say, no, we're going to test this oppressive law, and we refuse for Australia to be pushed into a fascist state. So we've always had the concern that the draconian measures which were originally introduced by John Howard under the guise of counter-terrorism, and now these measures are part of the same process, and the eventual outcome is to suppress free speech and to transform a liberal democracy such as ours into something that is far more controlled by the people who think that they know better. And unfortunately, liberal democracies have been the systems that are bought and sold with money. The more money you pay, the more inroads you get into the decision making, and the more you're able to influence those decisions. They've made a mockery of democracy, and now they've made it into something that is unworkable. We've reached a stage of democracy where oligarchs and lobbies are in control, and we need to win it back for the sake of all citizens.
Maybe we're transitioning back into a penal colony. Sorry, John.
How is it possible that an Islamic preacher can be sent to jail for 12 years, or any preacher? I mean, It's just, how is that religious freedom? Australia used to pride itself on religious freedom.
Well,
What
you
would
know,
they have to
there are
say?
verses. Yeah, there are verses in the holy books that criticize the actions of certain people and certain categories of people, and there are verses where Jews as a faith community, or sorry, not as a faith community, as a race, Jews as a race, there are verses where they are mentioned in the Quran. And if you look at the origin of the term Jew and Jewish in the Arabic language, the Arabic word is Yahud, and other places, those who went through the process of the way the Quran says, Ladina Hadu, those who became Yahud. Now, that particular term literally means those who are penitent, those who are repentant, those who had done something wrong and then went back to God and asked for forgiveness. So when you mention these verses in the Quran where God is criticizing their actions, they're saying reading the verse by itself is not is exempt, but an interpretation of the verse that might be seen as attacking that particular group or vilifying that particular group or criticizing that particular group can land you in prison. And watch out. So basically, they're effectively saying you're allowed to read the verse, but you're not allowed to explain it to your community. And verses of this nature, if you don't explain them to the community, then people will have a wrong interpretation and it becomes counterproductive. Every verse needs to be explained freely, whether it's the Quran or the Bible, Old Testament, New Testament. I mean, look at the verses in the Old Testament that say go into the Amalek and kill their women and children and their men and even their donkeys. If you don't give a proper explanation to that, then people like Netanyahu will use it like he did after the 7th of October 2023, and he used it to justify. He used it to justify killing Palestinians, and it is lost on most of the people who hear him that Palestinians are the original Semites. The Palestinians are indigenous to the land, and that is the land of the Semites. And when I say Palestinians, I include Palestinian Christians, Palestinian Jews, Palestinian Muslims, all Palestinians. We've been generally the public has been misled with this word anti-Semitism, and now religious speakers, whether it's an imam in a mosque or other religious speakers, under a grave threat with these draconian fascist laws. And I say something. You mentioned at the start that I used to work with Sheikh Hilali, and unfortunately at the moment we don't have a leader like Sheikh Hilali. If Sheikh Hilali had still been alive and in Australia, he would have mobilized the Muslim community and people would have gone into the streets and would have he would have been able to stop the passage of such horrific laws. And actually they may not have even been daring enough to propose them in this format if someone like him was still with us. His level of service and dedication to the community was unmatched, and people respect him. And there's hardly a Muslim household that he has not been involved in either reconciling or doing some service to that particular household. And if people see when he was alive, you see him in the community when he's walking, lots of people run to kiss his hand because they respect him as a father figure. We don't have anyone like him at the moment. Not myself.
Neither do we.
Who can
whole country.
Level of support.
No, the whole country, to be honest, doesn't have a leader worth looking at as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know if you noticed, but on social media, the night of the Bondi shooting and the next day, I thought it was going to be a maelstrom of hate going back and forth. But on my feeds, and we reach quite a lot of people, all I saw was Christians, Jews, Muslims, Australians calling for peace, saying this is not us. They wanted peace. So we've got a government now who's coercing us into division, into hating each other. They are intent on getting us to hate each other. The MSN seems to be doing the same. So as a leader of the Muslim community, what do you think is an alternative route we can take as Australians to make sure the hatreds from the old countries are not established here, because once they're established, they're hard to remove. And that we start a new country that actually celebrates respect for each other's different beliefs and looks forward to a future where our children live in peace together and respect.
Look, that is an excellent question, and nothing can lead us to that more than being just in what we say and being just in the way we implement the laws. When people see a just society, they will put up with a lot of things, believing in the system. But when the system fails you and you stop believing in the system, that is when you react in ways that are not always correct. For people en masse to believe in the system and believe that the system is there for everybody, well, the system has to prove that it is there for everybody and that it will protect everybody in the same way. Look at the way courts treat us at different times. There are times when they are relatively fair, and there are times when they're completely unfair, where they victimize Muslims, treat us like sometimes they look at us as people who are inherently bad, but we're not. We're not inherently bad. We are the same as everybody else. We might have some bad apples, but the vast majority of Muslims are law-abiding citizens who contribute to society in every conceivable way. And just to look at how much Muslims are contributing to the Australian GDP, the last estimates or last lot of statistics that I've seen were about $15 billion a year. Now, we're not the oligarchs of Australian society. We don't run the big corporations, and we don't own the big corporations. But bear in mind that we have so many tradespeople and people in lower level managements. We have some small companies. Just by that alone, we're contributing so much to Australia's GDP. And as more of our children are born here, raised here, educated here, they are demanding more. They're saying, well, we are Australian. We've known no other country to call home, and we want to be treated the same as everybody else. We want consistency in the law, and we want the same opportunities. If you grow up in a school where you are respected, instead of the school being a factory for conformity and subservience, if you grow up in a school where you are respected and you're given the same opportunities as everybody else, and your merit is rewarded the same as everybody else, then you feel that this is your nation, your society, that you can contribute to it with complete peace of mind, and that you know that you will travel the distance that your merit deserves, and you'll be treated like the rest of society, and so you become extremely protective of everything in this society. We work very hard that even with all the marginalization that we face, and the biases that we face, and the denial of opportunities that we face, we work very hard to say to people persevere. I gave a sermon yesterday at one of the mosques in Sydney, and I said, look, the reformers, the reformers in society are always a few, and historically, we always face persecution because those people who have wealth and have built a power base through exploitation of others, they seek to protect that power base by any means that they can get. And one of the easiest means is to find the minority to blame when things go wrong. So they don't say, the economy is bad because we've been robbing you blind, taking advantage of your labor and taxing you to the hilt. And no, they don't admit that. They say, no, it must be those foreigners or those Muslims or those people that society doesn't know enough about. They are the cause of our economic woes. They're taking away your jobs. We're not taking away anybody's jobs. We are contributing to the economy. We are contributing to society. We are doing jobs that there's a shortage of. Otherwise, why are we getting employed? It's because you need us. You need this. You need this working hands. And John didn't mention this, but for the first 14 years of my working career, I was working in Australian public service, and I worked very hard in this. As you know, being a non-white migrant to Australia, I have to work twice as hard as a white Anglo person to move up in the system, and I still managed to get six promotions. Now, if I was not so dedicated to serving this society, there is no way in the world that I would have received 6 promotions, and with the respect that those promotions would bring. So we contribute to this society. We call Australia home. We want Australia to be the best country in the world, but we are being betrayed by the political establishment. We are being betrayed by the oligarchs. When you see some of these oligarchs funding right-wing extremist groups, political and non-political, what I mean by that, like political parties or people who are not in parliament but might have political aspirations, you see this oligarchs funding these groups and encouraging them, knowing that they are divisive, that they create them and us. And we're working so hard to say we are all us. There is them. We are all human beings. We all have the same needs. We all need the same level of services and protections, etc. They are the traitors to society that are causing the division, where we are the healers who are trying to bring people together. Most of our leadership, maybe all our leadership, I shouldn't generalize, but our leadership wants everyone to live together in harmony. We want social harmony. We want cohesion. We want to be able to call everyone brother, regardless of their religion, regardless of their political persuasion or who they support politically. But
I want to ask you. Sorry, Kaiser. I want to ask you about the government's attempts to ban Hizb ut-Tahrir, which I wrote about quite extensively in the 1990s, and the government, in a bit of an unholy alliance with news limiters, as they've done before, it ran on the front page of the Sunday Telegraph the other day, ban the Hizb, and the Sky News has also been doing much the same thing, ban the Hizb. I've been to quite a number of their meetings. They make no bones about the fact that they think Australia would be a much better country if it was an Islamic country. And some of their gatherings, I mean, some of them are really powerful, like really powerful. Ask yourself, my brother, why has Allah been so cruel as to cast you among the unbelievers? They really do believe. And a lot of these people, ironically, live much cleaner lives than Australians. They value education. They don't drink, don't smoke, don't take drugs, take good care of their children, are loyal to their wives. They're like model citizens in many ways. And if you go to some of their community functions, it's no more threatening than a Presbyterian gathering, in the 50s or something. It's people are friendly, they're well dressed, they're clean, the kids are all well behaved. So, but this is a major push from the government to ban. They're calling them radical, or what they're calling them. And what do you think about this whole issue of banning Hizb ut-Tahrir? I can't pronounce it in the same flourish as the Arabic. It sounds much better in Arabic.
Hizb ut-Tahrir literally means the Liberation Party, and their group has a particular view or approach to life where they believe that the only way forward for the community is to have a centralized leadership, that we have a leader that we all fall behind, a leader that we pledge loyalty to, and a leader who is a devout practicing Muslim. They believe that's the solution to the community, and they can become quite argumentative if they see other Muslim leaders pushing different ideas. But that is the extent of what they do. They argue. They don't attack. They don't threaten. They don't intimidate. All their moral authority comes from quoting parts of the Quran to justify their logic. The government knows this, and they've tried to come up with the excuse that they're just a stepping stone to extremism. Well, I have not seen evidence of that. I've seen people gravitate towards them and leave them, and all the government has effectively done in this regard is that they've made them popular. They've made people say, well, this government is oppressive. If it's opposing this group, then the reason it's opposing them is because they must be doing something right. And they've basically now recruited people for this group. It was nothing more than a recruitment campaign, perhaps unknowingly recruitment campaign, and groups like this have historically profited from such campaigns because they know that they generate sympathy, and these are the sorts of campaigns where they say to the people, see, they target us because they are threatened by our message. We've always been peaceful. Everyone knows that we're peaceful. We don't call for violence. We've never called for violence. Yes, they do like disengagement, but most of their members, as you say, are educated. They have jobs. They contribute to the economy. They pay their taxes. They have their families. But their approach to life is that we need a centralized leadership, and that resonates with a lot of people because quite often I describe our community as an orphan community. In comparison to, let's say, the Indian community. Something happens to the Indian community, and then you find the Prime Minister of India immediately talking to the Australian government and saying, hang on, what's happening? Why are my people being persecuted? But something happens to Muslims, and no other country will step in and say, why are you persecuting Muslims? In fact, some so-called Muslim countries will say thank you. and unfortunately, many of these, not all, but many of these Muslim countries have externally installed and protected regimes whose only job is to serve their colonial masters who planted them and protect them. Their job is not to serve their people, and the smoke screens that they put in front of their people there are even worse than some of the smoke screens we see. Well, definitely worse than some of the smoke screens we see in some liberal democracies. Though, with President
realistic? Trump, sorry, Kaiser, is it realistic that people will go to jail for 12 years for preaching basically the overthrow of the government? I mean, my mother was a fundamentalist Christian waiting for the second coming of Christ, and he was, he wanted to see, she and her church were basically waiting for the overthrow of the Australian government, and Christ was going to come and save people and sentence everyone else to hell, or whatever the story was. So it in many ways doesn't seem more extreme than what my dear old mum, who was, a great figure in her church and wouldn't hurt a fly, doesn't seem any more extreme in many ways than what she believed, that Christ would return, that Allah would return. What do you think?
Well, that is exactly the point. That is absolutely the point. That if they have an idea in their head and they're not really doing anything about it, they're just sitting back and they talk to people. All they do is they promote their idea with words, not with violence, and they're not calling for violence. I have not heard them at any point in any speech call for violence. So when that is the case, what is the government doing? And I think what the government
it's not just the government, Kaiser. It's also in collusion with News Limited. I mean, during that whole
definitely. There's no doubt. There's no question. I don't dispute at all that they are in collusion with the Limited, as some people say. Their news is Limited. It's a perfectly matching name to. Of course, they're in collusion. The News Limited puts a lot of pressure on the government. Probably the fear that the government has of News Limited is now exaggerated. They don't have the same power that they used to before the rise of social media. But government is afraid of them. They're definitely afraid of every aspect of the Murdoch media. And
but what does the Murdoch press have to gain from this? I mean, during the whole Islamic State business in Iraq, you might remember they were badging during the Abbott era the suicide. They badged all their pages. Oh gosh, I've gone blank, but they were badging all their pages in the Telegraph. The death cult. So the death cult, the death cult, the death cult. Tony Abbott someone monitored, he used the term the death cult 327 times or something in press conferences, many of which had absolutely nothing to do with Iraq or Islam. They pounded this story and it ran across the Australian, across the Telegraph, across Sky News. What do they have to gain from this? Why are they doing it? What is the benefit to them?
Look, I think having looked at this, having tried to analyze it in the past, I think a lot of it is tied in with what is happening in the Middle East. Quite often we look at the Israeli grab of Palestinian land as being isolated, as an isolated Israeli expansionist greed. It's not. It is far bigger than that, and it is something that is also the desire of some of the Western powers. And Trump has now shown that very clearly with his so-called border peace. The things are related. They play the Islamophobia so that they can keep that level of tension, that suspicion of Muslims, and there's the grab in the Middle East. And it's quite likely, it's quite possible that this is a continuation of the old Crusades, that they went through a period of lull while they're rebuilding, and now they quite possibly see that as a means to completely subdue the Muslim community, to transform it from a vibrant, active religion into a ceremonial religion. And unfortunately, they've succeeded in doing that with other religions, that they've made their role predominantly ceremonial. And the whole issue again is that Islam has a very, very strong focus on reforming society. We have a very strong teaching on speaking truth to power. Speaking, not violently overthrowing the power, but speaking truth to power.
My question about.
It seems that most of these people they will collude to stifle free speech because they're afraid of words.
Do you think essentially?
Sorry,
I'll just ask one question. Yeah.
Yeah, you go. I'm just want to.
So, do you think in Australia, KEYSAR, they've over-egged the custard, basically, the same as after the Charlie Kirk murder and the what's going on in Gaza, which anyone can access on their phones and see thousands of children being killed in the most horrific, and fathers carrying their dead children. So anyone under 30, basically, in America no longer backs Israel, and you've seen a massive change in the public debate about this. Do you think the same thing is going on here, that it's been exposed as owning and manipulating the mainstream media and attempting to own and manipulate the public narrative against?
There's no doubt that a lot of people are seeing this, and a lot of credit to the Australian public. There's so many activists in Australia. I mean, look at the Block the Doc group in mostly active in Victoria, who are braving all sorts of draconian powers to stop the transport of goods to the rogue state. There's many Australian leftist groups that are standing up, and many in the Muslim community are standing up, and it's good that we can form a broad coalition of different Australian groups to stand up, to speak up, to get the message out. And we are facing a lobby that is far better funded, and that has far better and stronger political protections. You've got a premier who was willing to project the Israeli flag on the Opera House, but we have a Muslim brother who's being prosecuted in court for projecting on the ground an anti-genocide message. These complete double standards that we have in Australia are empowered by the media, and they're part of the global, I would say, US, European, maybe as I see, the final crusade or whatever it is. They are all linked together, and most of us believe that we are beyond the crusade. We should move beyond it. We should not look at them and us. We should look at just us, no matter where you are in the world, where Muslims have pretty much integrated it in every nation on earth. We are people who are trying to uplift those nations, whether it's Australia by contributing to the economy, or whether it's America or the UK. And we're happy to be in the political establishment. We're happy to be in business. We're happy to be in the trades and in the medical profession. And as you saw in Bondi, we want to save lives. We want to save lives in many different ways. Lives.
Sorry, Michael, you were going to ask. What were you going to ask?
It's about the vagary. So these are vague hate speech laws. Everyone's saying they're so vague, and which will mean that the ordinary Australians, no matter what religion they follow, are going to default to silence. But silence is the oven of hate. So fighting back against these laws, one peaceful way to fight back is with the weapon the gods gave us, no matter what God you follow, and that's our voice. And could you conceive of say Muslim leaders, Jewish leaders, Somalian leaders, Australian leaders, Christian leaders actually defying the government and coming together and having rigorous free speech debates? Because that's the only way to really stave off the hate. And do you think that is possible in our current environment? And if so, how would we go about it?
Well, that's a very good point. And before the laws were passed, there was a report in the media where Archbishop Anthony Fisher was asking the government not to pass these laws in their current form, but to wait. And that was something to be respected and celebrated. And Archbishop Fisher is to be congratulated for taking that stand. But the government completely ignored him. And I'm all for a unity of faith leadership to take a stand on these matters. And let's say, and I don't think this will happen, although I've attended iftar dinners hosted by Archbishop Fisher in the past, and I can tell you that despite some controversies, he is a very, very, very smart man. The speeches that he's given and the way he gels different ideas together, very, very intelligent, intellectual. And I remember before he gave his speech at the last iftar that I attended, it wasn't last year, it was a couple of years back. I came and spoke to him about something beforehand. He said, if you like, I'll end that in the, I'll include that in my speech. And I was impressed that it was not part of his speech, but he added it, and he added it so brilliantly. And he's clearly a very capable person who can make a difference. Now, I use that introduction to say, despite his capacity and his intellectual ability, I doubt very much that he would say something that would fall foul of these laws. And if he was to say it, I know for certain that there is no way that they would prosecute him, because the damage that would come from that would be just too great. And imagine a Labor Party prosecuting the head of the Catholic Church. Where would Labor be?
Prosecuting Islamic preachers out in Western Sydney, they're likely to lose those seats and could well lose government. The Labor Party is perfectly well aware of this.
Not only did they take that young Muslim preacher to court, I found out yesterday that one of the Islamic prayer halls, one of the very big Muslim organizations in Sydney, that on a Friday they will easily get 2,000 to 3,000 people into the congregation. They could not offer the service yesterday. And I was shocked. I was saying, why? They said, oh, well, the council said you don't have a permit to do this, but they've been doing it for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years.
Yeah,
In that place,
permits are away. Yeah.
Like how can they do that? How can they stop a place like that that is so well respected, that works well with government, that has some of the community's most experienced leadership, and it's like they don't care. They want to prove subservience to a certain lobby. They want to show that they're tough. They are appealing to the Pauline Hanson voters. They might think that this will get them somewhere. Now, the election is not going to happen tomorrow. Between now and the election, they have no idea how all these so-called called crazy tough suppressions of Muslims are going to backfire on them, and they're going to pay the price. But it's not just preachers. And in one article that was written about me by the Bulletin many years ago, maybe about 17 years ago, there was a claim in there. I think a question was posed by the author to the security services. Why have I not been arrested? Well, I've never called for violence anywhere. Why would I be arrested? And the response that he got from them is that I might have pushed some boundaries, but I was always within the law. Where is there anything in my public commentary that called for hatred or violence against any particular group? Nothing. But,
well, this raises a point that there are people online now who think that if you say you hate Anthony Albanese, which is a few million Australians are somewhere in that ballpark, and they believe that they can now be arrested if they post something saying, I hate Albo, he's a so-and-so and so-and-so. Yeah, lots of them. So there's lots of people are fearful that since these laws are passed, there's an insane level of confusion. Priests going to jail for 12 years, which could be Muslim, could be Christian, could be Hindus. There's radical Hindus that want all sorts of things as well. Is that same level of intense confusion operating within the Islamic community or Muslim community? I know that you've put out stuff to the various imams of how to negotiate the laws and what to say and what not to say, and to be particularly careful at this time about what you're preaching and what is being put out on social media. So is that same level of confusion that's in the broader public within the Islamic community?
Well, I think there is I think there's a lot of confusion, and there's a lot of people. There's a few voices out there that are talking in a way that we should be challenging these laws. We should not be silent. We should. My message to these people is that okay, you're willing to go to prison, probably Supermax, and sit there while somebody hoping that somebody will fight your case for you all the way to the High Court to challenge these laws. And I know that earlier in the week, before these laws were passed, one of the major organizations, a reasonably well-funded organization in the community, was going to issue a statement saying that if these laws are passed, we will mount a High Court challenge. Now, I had a little bit of influence, and I said, don't do that, because the opposition leader had already promised not to support these laws. I didn't know she was going to capitulate the next day, but she capitulated the next day, and she passed these laws. And my understanding of mounting a High Court challenge is that you don't just do it on the basis that last time we tried on other matters, is that you need to see the laws being implemented against somebody before you do it.
Can I ask also a purely political question, which is that, with Susan Lee, how you pronounce it, falling over basically, and the Nationals leaving the Liberals, that there's lots of talk now that the Nationals will join up with One Nation to form and other small groups like Jared Rennick and form quite a powerful lobby group, which could well, because of the level of economic discontent and social discontent and division in Australia now, become the dominant party. Can you see any scenario where the Muslim community, which have traditionally been voted left, would join a party, would join that sort of coalition? Is that possible? They've been very hostile to the hate laws, so that's one thing you've got in common.
That's actually a very good question. And earlier today, I attended a funeral service, a burial of a person who a young person who just passed away recently, and one of his relatives came up to me, who is from Melbourne, who's in Sydney from Melbourne for this, and he said to me, he said, "There's a few leaders in Melbourne who are talking about joining One Nation." And that they're hoping that if Pauline Hanson would stop targeting Muslims, that they would join her, that they see a real alternative in her party. And I said to him, but she's appealing to a certain section of society that don't know enough about Muslims, so she's creating the hatred and attacking the group that she created the hatred for, and it's going to be very hard to change her views on this. But they're seriously looking.
Stories on Pauline.
They're seriously
to a lot of
yeah, and don't forget Barnaby
community meetings. Sorry, Kaiser. And she was very popular with migrants and immigrants. So that was a surprising thing about Pauline, was that she was she's
a chameleon. She's a political chameleon. She will change to suit whatever's going to get her the votes and the money.
That's unfortunately, that's politics, isn't it? I mean, let's be honest. That because I mean, all we're talking about politics. I'm almost 60 years old. I've never known a politician I could trust my entire life. I mean, worldwide. They all turn out to be scams, and they all just want to stay in power in the end. And they're all corruptible. Power corrupts absolute. I mean, to me, I wish we had a small government that emptied our bins, fixed the road, and stayed the hell out of our lives. If you talk to anyone from an oppressive regime like Poland under the USSR, I remember asking one woman, how could you define freedom in a T-shirt? And she said simply, leave me the fuck alone. That's freedom. And we were camping, we came across, I live on the road, Kaiser, in this bus, doing stories wherever I can. We came to a weir with a beautiful park area next to it, just remote, nothing there. And we went and parked the bus, we took some shots, and then the police were there. You can't be here. This is government land, he's going. I said, I am the government. The government works for me, but I am the government. I pay taxes. So why can't I be here? And he's going, you could get injured, and if you get injured, who are you going to sue? And I said, you can't live like that, brother. You can't pussyfoot through life hoping to arrive at death safely. If I get injured, it's my frigging problem. But he couldn't do it. He just said, you live in a society, you've got to follow the rules. And I asked him, well, the rules are changing with hate speech laws now. Are you going to be arresting grandmothers in their home because they put an anti-Muslim or anti-Jewish post up? Is that what you're going to do now that you followed the rules? So it was all respectable. And this is what I was saying. We didn't get aggressive and was listening, but this is where we are now. There's no debate. There's no talk. Everything is seen as offensive to shut you down. And I think that just gets us further and further and further away. And one thing at the moment we can't talk about, we can talk about Palestine, Ukraine, everything, but I can't understand why nobody's talking about Iran. Now, do you have any updates from the Muslim community on what's happening in Iran that's actually happening, and not the bits we get from Twitter, which is the only sort of source that we seem to be getting information from?
I have some information about what's happening in Iran, and that is absolutely an excellent point as well. And I didn't mention it in the article. I was tempted to mention the situation with Iran in the article. But I left it alone for a number of important reasons that relate to the different dynamics within the Muslim community in Australia. But I'll just pull up the message. I'll just pull it up and read it to you. It's a message that I received today from one of the Iranian groups that I'm friends with. Official statement of Iran's Supreme National Security Council regarding number of deaths. Apparently, the official death toll in Iran after the latest, and they call it U.S. Israeli, instead of I spelling Israel with an I, they put intentionally Israeli hybrid war. 2,427 security forces and civilians have been killed, and 690 Israeli-backed terrorists. Iranian security forces say that an enemy command room of 10 intel agencies targeted Iran after a 12-day war. So the Iranians are looking at this as Israeli intelligence services, along with the US, creating all these problems over there. I don't know if they'll go on a full-out war, but this is a prelude to some high-level negotiations with Iran. What they expect to get out of Iran, in the long term, we know that the US talks about war a lot, but that's a prelude to negotiations. And if they get what they want, then they won't go to war. But they'll keep playing this like American wrestling. It's all hype and showmanship, and after the match they go to the same pub and drink together. This is at the moment that's the negotiation between Israel, the US, and Iran. That they showed them what they can do. A lot of people have been killed. They showed them how they can turn public opinion against them. I have visited Tehran for 2 conferences in the last 3 years. I was going to be invited to a conference this year, but then they're not inside Iran this time, but in a third country. But then they reduced the number of speakers, and they were going to cancel that conference up to the last minute. They were so scared of what is happening, but it ended up going ahead. They made the choice to continue, and what it is about uniting in the face of US and Israeli aggression, and leave them alone. It's a country that's been under sanctions for a long time, and it's a country that if it wasn't for Iran, there is no way in the world, there is no way that America would have been able to subdue Iraq so quickly. But the spiritual, the Ayatollahs, the spiritual leadership for the Shia community in those days when America invaded Iraq in 2003, they issued a religious edict to their followers not to interfere. And in return, America empowered them to run the country, and they've so. If it wasn't for that, there is no way. If they remained united, there is no way that America would have been able to overturn the regime, to bring in to get rid of Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein, during his time, Iraq had the highest level of education of any country, not just in the region, but throughout the world. They had a very high level of education. A lot of people, and he used to give a lot of education scholarships to people from many different countries. Yes, it was a suppressive regime. Yes, it was. It had very many similarities to some of the Arab dictatorships, but one of the main differences is that they had security, and the administration was spending lavishly on its own people and on people in the region.
Look, we're running out of time, Kaiser. So I wondered if we could just come back to the hate laws for a minute, and if you could sum up across the various groups and in the Islamic community, just what has been the response to Anthony Albanese jamming these laws through Parliament? How do you think it will impact on the community, and what do you think will be the long-term consequences of what many people see as an act of bastardry, and you're describing as a great betrayal, or the greatest betrayal of the Muslim community that you've seen?
Could I just have one more question after that, and then I'll finish on that? But please proceed.
One of the Muslim broadcasters, on Arabic radio, came out and said the community should be all up in arms and should be not literally arms, but should be in the streets protesting. Everybody should be uniting over this. And a few other voices have said we should all be uniting and standing up to the government. Then somebody said to him, "This is the Tony Burke that you backed at the last election. You fought very hard and refused to allow people to speak against him." And he said, "Oh, I still support Tony Burke," he said. "He's the best that we can get, but we should be marching in the streets protesting these laws." But nobody is saying go out there and challenge them by speaking your mind. There's a genuine fear that they would close down places of worship that might challenge these laws. There's a school principal who had posted anti-Zionist comments on his one of his platforms, and the department has sent and explain to the school. I won't say the word please, because there's no please explain. It's just explain yourself. And it's highly likely that if they don't dismiss him, that they will lose their funding, because they threatened them with funding. Why? Because the guy criticized Zionism, and it's not. And the Zionist lobby has been trying to equate Zionism with Judaism, and we've been trying to say Zionism is a political movement, whereas Judaism is supposed to be a race/religion. But the fact that the government or government instrumentalities have gone to persecute people for criticizing Zionism, and they've gone to different places of worship and closed them down on minor excuses. Not just one, more than one place, including places that are popular and powerful. Like the organization I was talking about before is a very powerful organization.
So it's fair to say that there is fear, confusion and concern within the Muslim community about these hate laws.
Exactly. And I think once people get their head around them, properly get their head around them, there will most likely be a major challenge to these laws. And imagine the egg this government will have on its face if this challenge succeeds. If this
it's 144-page bill and 300 and something explanatory notes. Nobody's read it.
Nobody's read it all, and no one's able to read it to actually understand what it means. It's just
despite all these pages, despite all these pages, it's still vague on what's hate speech. It's still very vague in general terms.
On purpose, I think.
Yes, nobody quite knows. I mean,
when you're not sure what it is. Like if you lived with an oppressive father and you didn't know what was going to make him angry, but you knew something would, you'd hide. You'd do nothing. You'd shut up. You'd stay silent.
This is not just an oppressive father. This seems like a drunk oppressive father who has a huge gambling debt, owes a lot of money to the lobby, and the lobby puts the thumb screws whenever they feel like it, and that's what they've done.
And has no idea what happens when he gets home.
Can I just say, moving forward now, because John over here is a journalist, but I'm not a journalist. I'm a playwright. I just capture stories. And one thing I know is that, first off, I just want to make this clear while we've got you here. Don't you think it's strange that these Nazi boys turned up out of nowhere, all with their uniforms? They basically wedding crashed major. I think the first time we saw them was when that woman Polly from England was here defending women, and suddenly there's the trans community there attacking her, and then suddenly there's the Nazis walking between them, and the police are just letting them walk, and they're doing their signals, their hand signals, changing the light bulbs, and
we've lost
here
Kaiser, have we?
Here he comes. But
Just
suddenly,
something
suddenly these
I've
boys are
clicked on the wrong
everywhere.
button. I'm back with you. Look,
Just to finish,
people should not be surprised that these things happen.
can I just finish what I was saying, Kaiser? Because
Yeah,
I'm just saying,
you were talking about how those Nazis
and
turned
then
up.
suddenly, like the leader just happens to come across the premier doing a live in a park, and they just happen to pass. And now that the hate speech laws have gone, the Nazi boys decide, oh, we're going to disband the group. I mean, come on, this is theatre. I'm a playwright. This is theatre. It's not even clever theatre. But this is the question. This is the question asked to you, to John, to every Australian now. Now, a lot of us immigrants come from countries where the hate is endemic. It will probably never be cured. Let's be honest. There's too many sons being killed, too many daughters. They just can't get past it. But Australia doesn't have that here yet. And the one thing that the Jewish, the Muslims, the Nazis, the Africans, you name every group, one thing we all have in common is when our children are born, as soon as they can start drawing, they don't draw symbols of hate. They draw symbols of families. They draw symbols of love. They draw love hearts. And then they have to be taught to hate. Don't you think right here and right now, we have the ability to tell the government who wants us to hate, because silence is the womb of hate, or the oven of hate. So they want us to hate. So right now, our way to stand up to them is not by getting aggressive back, is not by acting like they want us to act, but it's actually to come together and say, look, we want to live in peace, because a peaceful community where hate is shunned is the gift that we want to give to the next generation. And because if Australia can do that with all our different races together, then Australia can be a beacon of hope for humanity, for the rest of the world. And we are being gifted this great responsibility now via these hate speech laws and this pathetic prime minister who doesn't like being AI put into a bikini gate.
Yeah, no, that is an excellent point, and I think there's something that it's probably worth sharing with your viewers, is that the Department of Home Affairs, and this is something that used to be done by Multicultural Affairs, but within the Department of Home Affairs, there's a community liaison unit, and that talks to pretty much all the groups out there. They have somebody who's responsible for all the different groups, and I have no doubt that they would have somebody who would have talked to those neo-Nazis, right-wing extremists, somebody who maintains contact, and that's part of the government's intelligence gathering, and they would have said to them things along the line that, look, you guys do the right thing, and okay, they disbanded, but they didn't just disband. They disbanded, and then they announced that they would be forming a political party. So they're still there, and they're still going to be politically active. What is the level of government collusion with these types of groups? I don't know. In other countries, there is clear collusion. We saw that in some of the dictatorships that fell, where in the Middle East, where it became very clear that a certain criminal element was empowered and supported to keep certain levels of tensions in those societies. In one country, they were referred to as Baltajiyya, and notwithstanding what the technical literary translation of that term, there were a group of thugs who terrorized society, criminals. In another country, they were called Shabiha. Again, notwithstanding what the literal translation is, there was still a group of people who terrorized society. And what we saw when the regimes were threatened, these were the first tools of the regime that became very clear that they were tools protective of that regime.
Yes, justifications. We're out of time, Kaiser. I'm sorry that we've just run out of time. So it's we just close. I just have a 1 or 2 sentence sort of closing observation. I'm just amazed at how divisive and how confusing and how poorly drafted and how, basically amazingly divisive these hate speech laws have been, and jamming through the Parliament in the way they have has created needless hysteria and concern and fear amongst the population, which looks like a deliberate attempt to silence conversation and dissent, which is a positive. We can all agree to disagree on all sorts of things. So do you have any final words, inshallah, or would you like to give us all a blessing of some kind?
Yeah, man.
Look, my heart is always blessing you guys. Without somebody raising awareness, we would all end up being sheepishly led by some of those closed-minded, very selective media outlets. We need this alerting and voices that show people what the reality is. And
Great. Thanks,
and all credit to you, and congratulations and thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm always happy
Thank
to
you.
be part of these conversations. As you've seen, I have a lot on my mind, and I'm not afraid to share
We'll
it.
have to get you back some other time.
Well,
There's so
that
many
would be interesting.
controversies. And Michael, final words.
That would be interesting, you know, because as podcasters, we're not bound by whoever governs MSN, and they're owned. We're doing an interview tonight with a CEO who was vaccine injured, and he's been incapacitated for 5 years. And he was going to do an interview with a major newspaper, but the reporter got hold of me and said, their editors said, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing any vaccine injured stories. We don't care. And so they've handed it to me, and we're going to talk about it at depth. So at the moment, the podcasters, like what John's working with us now, we are the ones that can actually talk freely. You know, we could get you on with Jewish leaders. I think the public, to see an Islamic leader and a Jewish leader actually discussing together, not just throwing hate at each other, actually looking for common ground, would be a great protest against these bills, as if to show the politicians we can look after each other. We can sort out each other's problems, you know, because we all have one goal, and that's to live in peace with each other. The good majority of us.
We're out of time.
Yeah, happy to do it. Happy to do it. Look, I've reached out to Jewish speakers before. I've done a number of podcasts with Professor Peter Slezak, which I shared on my Facebook. But I don't do too many events where I host them myself. But you know, happy to engage.
We're out of time. So to the listeners, we're out of time, and that's that.
Great
Next
to meet you,
week at
Kaiser.
10 a.m.
God
on
bless you, and I
Sunday
wish
for
you the
this
best, brother.
Yeah, God
series,
bless you
we
all.
have Colin Lilly on. He's the husband of Jacinta Price, Jacinta Namatjira Price, and he's got a new documentary out about Australia, which looks fascinating, and he's a well-known musician in his own right, and he may well become Australia's first man. If Jacinta makes it Prime Minister, we shall see what happens. But thank you so much, Kaiser Trad.
Thank you. My pleasure.
All right, take care.
You've
It's called
enjoyed
the
the
Lucky
Kaiser Trad.
Country.
Thank you.
See you soon, guys.
See you
Thanks,
later.
John.
See you.
Oh, and I will play this tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
When I met Jesus Christ, he was almost 10 years old. And he was helping his mother push a trolley full of all they owned. And because they couldn't find an inn they could get in, they were heading to the city and leaving Bethlehem. Couldn't you perform a miracle? I'm out of them, he said. I tried turning nothing into warmth, but it just made my mother cry. It just made my mother cry. Mary Magdalene has become a man, and tonight he's old, and she has been riding my tram. Now it's late and she to whom